I'm delighted to host a Red Cloud webinar on gold exploration today. We will hear from Simon Dyakowski, President and CEO of Aztec Minerals Corp. During today's webinar, he will provide an overview and outlook, and then we will take questions. You can type your questions into the chat box at any time, and we will get to as many as we can. Before we kick things off, first we need to discuss some fine print. During this Aztec webinar, forward-looking statements may be made. I would direct listeners to the company's forward-looking statements disclosure outlined on page 2 of the Aztec corporate presentation, and that can be found on the company's website, aztecminerals.com. For Red Cloud Securities, Inc., I would highlight that this webinar is for information purposes only. It should not be considered a solicitation or a recommendation to buy or sell securities. We note that this call does not consider the particular situation or needs of individual investors. Participants should rely on their own investigation and seek their own professional advice before investing. Please see our most recent research located on the Red Cloud website for specific disclosures on Aztec. So we have Aztec Minerals presenting today. The company is focused on gold exploration in Arizona and Mexico, although there may be some other metals on their radar and in the mix as well. Aztec's current focus is primarily on its Tombstone Project, located in a historic mining camp in Arizona, and it also has the Cervantes Project in Mexico. They've had successful drill programs at both properties with plenty of exploration potential yet to tap into. With that, I now turn it over to Simon to update our audience on the company.
Great. Thank you for the introduction, Timothy. And thank you, everybody who has tuned in today or is going to watch the replay, for spending a few minutes with us for an introduction and really an update on what we're doing at Tombstone right now. So, as mentioned, we are an exploration company focused on 2 emerging discoveries that we've made in North America. The Cervantes project in Sonora, Mexico is gold focused with a copper porphyry upside, and the Tombstone Silver District has a gold silver focus with a polymetallic CRD potential upside at depth. We're currently drilling at Tombstone, so that'll be the focus of my remarks today, giving an update on that after a brief introduction to the company and our 2 projects. We've covered off the cautionary statement, so thank you for that, and please review this on our website if you need further clarification. So we have a focus on making large discoveries, gold and silver focus with polymetallic upside, and we're focused on world-class mining jurisdictions, and particularly we consider Arizona in the US to be a world-class mining jurisdiction. We have a strategic investment by a large gold producer, Alamos Gold. Our company is led by an experienced management and board with a proven track record through all cycles of the mining industry. We own a 77.7% joint venture interest in the Tombstone Project. This project contains a past producing open pit heap leach gold silver oxide mine and a historic silver district hosting multiple high-grade underground mines. We also own 100% of the Cervantes project, which is a large porphyry district, and it's near multiple mines and projects under development in Sonora, Mexico. The focus of today's talk and of the company for the next few months will be the emerging gold-silver discovery at Tombstone. We have had several successful rounds of drilling and recently have launched an expansionary step-out drill program, which is now underway. We've been drilling for about 1 month now. Our previous drilling from the period between 2020 and 2023 was focused on the contention zone, where we discovered shallow and broad oxide gold and silver with highlight intervals of 32 meters of 6.28 grams per ton gold equivalent, 65.5 meters of 3.39 grams per ton gold equivalent. And included with that data set, we have bonanza grade silver that it was discovered last year, 1.5 meters of 34.77 grams per ton silver, within a broader interval of 7.6 meters, averaging 734 grams per ton silver. We have a deeper CRD silver lead zinc style target in the model of Taylor Hermosa sitting right underneath us, yet to be drilled. Highlights for investors, just why to look at Aztec and Tombstone as a potential investment. So, we're a multi-asset drilling and discovery stage company with 2 great projects. Why look for exposure to large discoveries? This will be common knowledge to many junior investors, but maybe for the generalists, I'll touch on it here. Major mining companies, they need to acquire large ore deposits to sustain their businesses. And rather than explore for them themselves, in recent decades, they've relied primarily on M&A, mergers and acquisitions, to replace those reserves. As such, junior companies like Aztec now dominate the exploration sector, and the expertise and risk appetite for making these new discoveries resides within companies such as Aztec. When a discovery is made and de-risked in advance, a major mining company can come in and pay a large premium to acquire these successful juniors. And in our view, that can maximize shareholder value. Why are we focused on North America? Touched on it on the previous slide, but we think that North America hosts some of the best mining jurisdictions in the world. When you look at the combination of political risk, rule of law, taxes, infrastructure, and discovery potential. Why should investors look at Aztec Minerals? We're well positioned with news flow and accretive drilling underway. We have large scale ounce potential across both of our projects, and we think we have significant leverage to the gold and silver price. We've made discoveries at both of our projects. We're currently drilling at Tombstone, and we still have an attractive valuation as this precious metal cycle heats up, about 35 million Canadian market cap. 40% of our shares are closely held. And why now? Well, the precious metal cycle is underway. Gold has broken out to new nominal highs of just under $2,800 per ounce. Silver is now making a breakout to decade highs. And to catalyze all that for shareholder value for an exploration company, you need to be drilling and making further discoveries, which is what we're doing right now. A little bit on our management and board. So as mentioned, myself, I come from a capital markets background, but everyone else on the team is a geologist. So we have David Heil, our VPX, 40 years of experience, multiple discoveries under his belt. Chairman of our technical committee is Mark Rebliati, renowned geologist, Canadian Mining Hall of Famer. Pat Veris, another very well-known geologist who's had 2 large M&A exits to his credit. Recently joining us as strategic advisor, Marcio Fonseca, mining executive, engineer, and geologist with global investment banks and very active in the sector. So great team, and our capital structure is solid. We're valued at about 35 million Canadian right now. We are cashed up with over 2 million Canadian in the bank. Our shares are closely held. Insiders own about 12%, and a group of closely held institutional investors own about 30%. Recently, we've seen an influx of larger investors into the name. Our notable shareholders are headlined by Alamos Gold being the largest, the Euro Pacific Gold Fund, Burmacan Capital, EMA GARP, AIPM Junior Mining Fund, and down the list we go. There have been a number of entries of long-term institutional investors over the past few months. Our shares have been performing well. We are trading at just under 30 cents a share today as we speak. We still think we're very, very undervalued based off of the potential of our projects as well as comparisons to other similar companies that we've highlighted on this slide. And I'll just spend a moment on this. We have no overhang from any 4-month hold financing because our last financing was done with free trading stock in July. So that's had now 3+ months to consolidate, settle out. We have no finance overhang as we recently cashed up, and we have ample cash position to continue and potentially expand our drill program. And we have recently traded out some shareholders from previous cycles with new institutional money. So just point out that last year, the last time that we drilled at Tombstone, we had a large share position to unwind of over 10 million shares. That's now completely out of the way. And so I bring that up because when we have drill results over the next few weeks and months, we don't expect to have any large blocks of stock to come in and cap our share price performance. And that had been a factor in the past. So for those that have followed the story over a couple of years, I think the structure, although it has a few more shares out now, is a lot cleaner with more solid long-term shareholders in place. Project location. So Tombstone sits in southeastern Arizona in Cochise County. And just down this map slide, you can see our Cervantes project is it's about a 6-7 hour drive away. And we are surrounded there by La India, owned by Agnico Eagle, Mulatos by Alamos Gold, Santana, owned by and operated by Minera Alamos, San Antonio, and La Colorada, I think is now Heliostar. So very, very strong neighbors. And a very active mining district around both of our projects. The focus today, though, is on Tombstone. Just to zoom in a little bit where we are, we're very well located. We're on private ground, so we own not only the mineral rights, but also the surface and the water rights. And this is key. Mining is a very risky business, exploration even riskier. And one of the chief risks in any jurisdiction is permitting, the ability to explore, the ability to de-risk, and then the ability to develop and mine. And so we have historic mining patents, which effectively leave us with only state level permitting considerations, which if you compare this to being on, say, Crown land in Canada or BLM or forest land in the US, it's hugely advantageous. And so we're very happy to be located where we're at. And we'll see in the slide coming up here that we have the patents that cover most of the high grade past producing silver mines around Tombstone and almost the entirety of the historic open pit mine, which has been the focus of our drilling to date. We're also, just to compare locations near other projects that might be well known to investors, we're surrounded by a number of world-class copper porphyry mines, but most importantly, I'll draw your attention to this blue dot to our southwest. That is the Taylor deposit that is now owned by South 32. Very, very large M&A deal from 2018 where a discovery made in 2015 by Arizona Mining was acquired just 3 years after discovery by South 32, an Australian mining company, for almost $2 billion Canadian. South 32 just this year has made the decision to put that mine into production. So that's a key, I think, location comp for us, and also geologic comp. We think there are some very, very interesting similarities between the discovery that was made deep at Taylor and the discovery that potentially may be made deep at Tombstone. Now, we are following up on 3 rounds of drilling that have been done at Tombstone over the past 4 years. And our current focus, although I mentioned the deep targets, is to expand on the shallow targets. And to that end, on this slide, we are looking at a grade thickness map. This is a non-43-101 compliant metric, so it cannot be construed as gross metal value. And we have a disclaimer on this slide to clarify that, but it can be a helpful color code to demonstrate the dispersion of the results here, to show that we've had excellent grades and thicknesses of gold and silver oxide mineralization up and down the strike length of the now 900 meters of our pit zone, and up to about 300 meters across. And so this is broad, shallow, and oxidized gold and silver. And we believe we can expand on this, particularly over to the west side. We'll touch on that in a subsequent slide here. So we have a new geologic model on the district. Our initial shallow drilling on the west side area is currently underway, and we're testing the continuity of multiple high-grade mineralized structures that we've identified in our data set. This data set now includes our drilling completed by Aztec, drilling completed by previous operators, surface and underground mapping and sampling. We have now compiled almost all of the old workings in the district. This includes tunnels and stopes. And we have recently acquired the West Side Mine, which has reported historic production of about 5,000 tons, 5.1 5,157 tons, averaging about 67 ounces per ton of silver, 1.3 ounces per ton of gold, and almost 10% lead. So very high grade mine all the way to the western extension of our new target model. We also have the sulfurette mine, which was mined in 1904-05, which averaged 70 ounces per ton silver with a gold silver value ratio of 1-to-1. So these are very high grade structures, and we believe that drill testing these has the potential to very meaningfully expand on the grid that we've already drilled within the open pit. Zooming in a little bit on our current drill expansion targets. So what we're looking at here in the green rectangular boxes is our target zones. These have been superimposed on some of the mineralized structure that we've identified in our recent targeting exercise, which has been based on sampling and really integration into a 3D model. So you can see there are a number of east-west structures in blue. These are anticlines. We have north-south structures in red. These are dikes, and these are what have historically carried the high-grade mineralization towards the west or in the contention pit. And then we have the magenta or pink highlighted lines running to the northeast. Those are fissures or vein structures. And what we've noticed in our modeling and in our data compilation is that when these structures intersect, there is evidence of large vertical extents up to 200 or 240 meters of high grade structures that have been mined historically. And I'll note that essentially all of the area where these green boxes are was slated to go into open pit production in the early 80s in the previous blow off top in silver. I'm not suggesting that now is one, but there was a big run in the silver price in the early 80s when the Hunt brothers tried to corner the market. That led to obviously a frenzied exploration sector and influx of capital into projects in the US and Canada. However, it quickly subsided, and as such, the West Side mine expansion plan at Tombstone was scheduled for another time, and eventually, didn't come to be. So it creates for us a huge exploration target, and very lucky for us that nobody mined this. We're now able to go in and drill it, and hopefully you can see by the dimensions here, comparing the yellow dots and traces of our previous drilling to our new target zones. This is about 600 meters of step outs to the west. We could very meaningfully expand on our primary shallow target with the 12-hole drill program that's currently underway. So we're drilling right now 2,000 meters, about 12 holes if we don't expand it. And we started this about 4 weeks ago. So the drillers have been drilling on a 20 on and 10 off schedule. We've been able in our first shift to complete 4 holes. So the first 4 holes that we drilled were in the box that's immediately to the west of the contention pit. And I will actually try to draw here on the map so that you can see. So we drilled 3 holes, one there, and one there. So they're 50 to 70 meter step outs into the west side zone. And then we drilled 1 target to the east that was generated with some compelling surface exploration targets this past summer. So we have 4 holes now completed and in the lab, and the drillers now return to site. They're returning tonight after their 10-day break, and they will be resuming drilling tomorrow. And the target that we're attacking tomorrow will be in this green box here. And this will be about a 50 to 70 meter step out to hole 1 of last year, which I'm very badly sketching here, but I think everybody gets the picture. So we'll be stepping out even further west along the west side trend as a step out to hole 1 of 2023. Hole 1 of 2023 hit 1.5 meters over 3,400 grams silver. It was about 125 meters of 1.6 grams gold equivalent. So very strong result for us last year. We're looking to build off that with hole 5. And then holes 6 and 7 are planned to be way out to the west side target as well. And then we'll start to work our way back towards the pit with the remaining 6 holes thereafter. So the program is well underway, and I'm very pleased to report that we have had no issues with this drill. So we were very, very intentional with the drill that we have sourced for this program. It is very powerful. It's got 70,000 pounds of pullback. It's mounted on a tank track. It's got a very skilled team that has experience in drilling in this type of rock formation, which is the Bisbee sediments, which has been historically very difficult to drill through. It's extremely hard to core drill through the shallow layers of siltstone and sandstone, fractured and faulted rock. However, the machine that we've had has had excellent production rates, good core or chip recovery. It's RC drilling, and we're pleased, and we hope to potentially complete more drilling with this than had been planned. But it's going well. The second shift starts tomorrow. We'll drill for another 20 days, then break for 10. The 4 holes are in the lab right now. We've had historically very good turnaround time from the lab. We don't expect much difference this time. We expect to have initial results in the next 2 to 4 weeks, let's say 3 to 4 weeks. And we are very eager to share those results with the market when we receive them and have analyzed them and put them in a format that's digestible for investors. But visually, no results yet, but we've seen in the first 4 holes stepping out and expanding this pit zone. It is consistent with what we were hoping to see in our geologic model. Again, it's not like we can eyeball grade or anything like that, but we can definitely identify the rocks that we've been drilling, and we're pleased to see that we believe we're in the same geology that we've seen in previous drilling in the pit and then coming up on the western high wall. So we're well underway. There's excellent potential for both high grade and bulk tonnage mineralization in this step out drilling program. We expect this zone to grow significantly over the next couple of months into the new year, and potentially lead us into an expanded program. Just to quickly summarize, why we're focused on this open pit oxide target, maybe just to put it into context here. So this really is focused drilling to confirm and extend the shallow oxide pit mineralization around and below the pit. Now very much to the west, not simply confirmation, but now it's more focused towards growth. But the good question is why. And the answer to that question is that the typical open pit heap leach mine in the Western U.S. will run an average of maybe 0.4 to 0.6 grams per ton gold. And our historic drill results from 2020 to 23 have been much higher grade in comparison. We know that this open pit mine operated profitably in the 80s with much lower precious metal prices and good recoveries with only minor crushing. Heap leach mining was only in its infancy really in the early 80s, and we believe that these historic recovery numbers could be improved upon in the modern age. There's still plenty of high-grade material left in these historic mine workings. Our grab samples have been very high, and now our drilling has shown high-grade gold and silver mineralization. Obviously, with the highlight bonanza grade silver last year of 1.5 meters of over 3,400 grams silver. And this new potential that we've uncovered over the past 8-9 months it's really, I think, potentially going to be game changing for our investors if we can extend that western trend very meaningfully off of the pit and continue to integrate the model into one. We think this has the potential for large scale ounces in that open pit oxide heap leachable target model, which again can be very profitable to mine, both from an OPEX and a low CapEx perspective. You are not talking about a multi-$100-million mill to mine this material. It's potentially just a simple crush and a leach circuit, which has been demonstrated to have worked here before in the 80s. Just touching on a little bit on what we've already drilled. We're excited about the ongoing drill program, but I quite frankly think that we're undervalued based on what we've already drilled. And we've put 51 holes into this project, 6,500 meters. Every single hole except one has hit very meaningful widths of oxidized gold silver mineralization. You can see the red dots and traces here within the pit and up on the pit wall. And we'll get into some representative cross sections to expand on that a little bit here, but these have all been very consistently mineralized. Here's section K, so this runs essentially through the middle of the pit, and you'll see here that we have 3 holes drilled on section K, and some surface sampling that showed excellent grades and widths. I'll just draw your attention to hole 22 here, 65.5 meters at 3.4 grams per ton gold. And if you could just see here, I'll highlight this. This drill hole caved in 7.6 meters of 22.15 grams gold equivalent. Very, very high grade that just basically dropped off in caving. So this represents a big area here to expand on the high grade mineralization. Stepped out 50 to 60 meters to the west, you can see another drill hole hit 64 meters of 2.5 grams gold equivalent, and further west again 64 meters of over a gram gold equivalent. And this brings us towards our west side expansion target where we're currently drilling. So big, I think there's big re-rating potential here just off what we've already drilled, and obviously with the potential to grow it even further with the ongoing drill program. So that's just a representative cross section. And then on long section, you can see the blue bars represent silver, the red represent gold. You can see that these structures that we're cross-cutting on cross section are very consistent up and down the entire 900-meter length of the pit zone. And notice the water table level here at level 6. This has been historically a bit of a limiting factor for underpowered RC drill rigs. However, with this much more powerful rig that we have on site now, we are able to get through the water table and test even deeper, which has been very successful because our bonanza grade silver was found right above the water table zone last year, and this is the focus of our upcoming hole 5 to expand on that. So we're excited to get that underway tomorrow. Our highlight reel of drill results here is on this slide. You know, I won't read every single one of them off to you, but they're an impressive list of results. Again, the non 43101 compliant metric of grade thickness, just as a quick and dirty way of comparing results. If you multiply the grade times the width here of gold equivalent, you'll see 10 holes over 100 and 4 holes over 200. So these are very strong in the context of just drilling 6,500 meters so far. Now we do have a deep target of the CRD style of mineralization. We put this slide up just to demonstrate what can happen in a bad mining market to a CRD discovery. So, you know, Arizona Mining made the discovery in 2015, which was, you know, as I'm sure some seasoned investors will remember, you know, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 weren't exactly banner years for the exploration sector. However, a good discovery can overcome that, and they made, you know, not only a good discovery but an amazing one, and we're able to monetize over 3 years. So we have a CRD target of our own at Tombstone. Again, we're only 60 kilometers away, but the similarities to the projects are numerous. Past producing silver district with a 2-kilometer carbonate unit below it, and this is hosted in limestones. And what we've seen in our drilling, not our drilling rather, but in some historic drilling on our project, has been only one hole has got underneath the contention open pit that was drilled in the late 80s by Santa Fe Mining, and I'll highlight it here. Hole T8, this one returned at 650 meters deep, 7.2 meters of 6.5% lead, 2.6% zinc, so 9.1% lead zinc, 0.6 copper, 32 grams of silver over 7 meters at depth in the limestone. So this is a Taylor style intersection, never been followed up on. It for historic reasons it was not followed up on. The first really meaningful follow-up has been our geophysics, and I'll show you where that hole is now with the highlighter. So that hole was drilled here, and notice that it is underneath the north end of the pit that we've been drilling in, and there's no deep drilling underneath really the guts of the system here, the contention pit. So we thought, well, this is probably a very logical place to run some deep geophysics to see if there's anything lighting up below the pit at the same level. And here we can see there are two at the same depth horizon at 650 meters. There's two potential conductors, and we've interpreted these to be potential sulfide ore bodies. So next year, subject to market conditions and financing, we do plan to go in and extend some of our shallow holes into these targets and see if in the limestone bed below the Bisbee sediments, which again are hard to drill through, if there are the potential for mantos or CRD ore bodies, which would be 500, 600, 700 meters south of where we have the historic intersection. So this represents a very, very significant upside for us, in addition to simply growing the silver gold zone to the west and potentially to the south. And in order to test these targets, we are doing our homework. We have actually purchased quite a bit of casing so that we can potentially pre-collar some of these deep holes down to 200 or so meters, leave the casing in them with the RC rig, and then come back in the new year with a diamond drill and take them down to 600, 700 meters depth and test these anomalies and test the continuity of this structure that was drilled in the late 80s. So that's a part of a subsequent drill program. I don't want to confuse that, but we are getting the technical aptitude to be able to drill that deep. As we're drilling now, we're really starting to understand, and we're getting close to the decision point where we might be able to do that deep drilling. And very important to have this understood before starting, because an expensive deep drill program that's done, prematurely has the potential to sink a company. We don't want to sink the company. We have two great assets, and we're just getting into this bull market now. Finally, after many years of waiting, we're gonna do it right for our shareholders, which will be managing our exploration and financial risks as best as we can. So that's a summary on Tombstone, and obviously a quick drilling update. We do have the 4 holes in the lab, starting to drill the 5th hole tomorrow. We're going to start to see a steady stream of news over the next, certainly over the next month, and then into the new year from this project, and with the potential to meaningfully expand to the west, and then eventually get into these deep drill targets. So we are, we're just thrilled to be back drilling at Tombstone after about a 1.5 year hiatus, and finally, knock on wood, with a good precious metal and macro backdrop to boot. Won't spend too much time on Cervantes today. Maybe just for 2 minutes. Our second flagship, 100% owned property, big gold, copper, porphyry target. This has seen significant drilling by us over the last 6-7 years, 12,500 meters. Again, almost every hole here is hit and added to our model. Wide open to expand. It's about a 1-kilometer zone here, running east-west and north-south. So a square kilometer of mineralization. We've had exceptional drill results highlighted by 137 meters of 1.5 grams gold, 165 meters of 1 gram gold, and wide open to expand. And our timing to get back on the ground here would be potentially early next year during the dry season to go and work up some expansionary drill targets. Very compelling starter metallurgy here. No red flags identified in any of our testing. 67 holes now for over 12,000 meters of drilling, wide open to expand, and we're looking forward to getting active there again next year. But given that we're right in the thick of the drill program at Tombstone right now, I want to keep that as a focus of today's talk. So we're cashed up. We raised money in the summer. We've increased our property ownership at Tombstone. We are now drilling, and we're target generating at Cervantes over the next few months. So it's a great spot here to hopefully make some value for our shareholders. And just in summary, the investor highlights, great team working with us, of talented geologists with proven track records, cheap valuation still. We're under 40 million market cap, lots of room to grow, I believe, and good shareholders headlined by Alamos Gold. 2 great projects, emerging discoveries at both, and very compelling upside potential at both as well. So yeah, with that, I'm happy to take any questions that might come up here.
Great. Thank you, Simon, for the very informative presentation. As I mentioned, we'll now start the Q&A portion of the webinar. A reminder to everyone on the line that you can type your questions into the chat box at any time. We already do have a few questions. One you had mentioned the deeper CRD potential and some of the previous drilling. Will this drill program include some deeper holes, or is this really focused on the oxides at Tombstone?
This program is, I'd say, 95% focused on the oxides at Tombstone, but we do have an opportunity to lay the foundation for some deep drilling next year, and that would be with leaving casing down a couple of the holes. So we do plan to at least do that on one drill hole, is to leave the drill casing down, which would allow us to then re-enter the hole with a core rig once we're safely into the limestones. And that's much safer to drill in with core than to try to fight your way through the broken up rock near surface.
Okay, great. And one interesting question here, but looking at the historic mining, not the heap leach, but the previous smaller underground mining, looks like it was polymetallic mineralization or more silver oriented. Was that CRD mineralization, or was that something different?
Yeah, so for example, the sulfuret stope, that was a manto, so that was that similar replacement style ore body that ran down to 240 meters, whereas the west side mine was more of a vein-like structure. So, I don't know, I don't have a list in front of me of the style of mineralization for each of the historic mines. They were relatively small, but they were primarily a mixture of breccia ore bodies, mantos, so CRD replacement style, and vein replacement style. So all three.
Okay. And one question here, who owns the minority interest in Tombstone, and are they funding their part of the current drill program?
Yeah, so our partners are Dragoon LLC, private group out of the United States, and they have funded their portion of the drill program at, I believe, 22.3%. They were reduced slightly earlier in the year, but they have made their cash call for this part of the program.
And is there any opportunity to acquire more ground to add to Tombstone?
So over the last 3 years, we have acquired about 5 additional patents, and we believe that there is more opportunity. If you look at our property boundary, there are additional patents around us, so it's not like we're up against national forest or anything like that. And so I believe there could definitely be the potential to acquire more properties over the next few months. But we haven't signed anything that we haven't announced yet, and we'll announce a deal if it comes together. But definitely, I would expect the potential to expand it.
Great. And you had given an update on the drill program, and obviously you have drilled a few holes. But one general question about how is the drilling going? Is it efficient and to plan? And what are your drilling costs per meter?
Yeah, so our it's on budget right now. We're drilling in competent rock at about, I think it was about 12 or 15 meters an hour. So it's going fast when you're in good rock, and we actually slow the drill down just to make sure that we have good recoveries. So this drill has been excellent. It's the best one we've had. And this is coming from our senior geo, who's been on every drill project that we've done. He says this is the best crew, the best foreman, the best machine. And our costs all in per meter here are budgeted at about 330 US per meter, which is that covers everything, including assays, our staff, geologists, and everything like that. So it's not the cheapest when you think of RC, but this is kind of, I would call it like RC plus, in that we're not drilling RC because it's cheaper. We're drilling RC because we have to get through the Bisbee sediment. Whereas sometimes there's a kind of a connotation of RC that it's done because it's cheaper, which in many cases it is, but to clarify here, it is the only way you can drill the shallow mineralization in Tombstone.
And I'm not exactly, we do have one question that came in, but I'm not sure exactly what it means, but ask if you evaluate how much about minerals on Tombstone. But maybe you can tell us a little bit about, you had mentioned kind of the different things that you're looking at there, and what, I guess, as far as kind of minerals or metals that you're targeting, what can you reiterate, I guess, what the mix is that you're working with at Tombstone?
Yeah, so shallow drilling, what we're seeing is oxidized gold and silver down to about 200 meters, and while still to be discovered, the potential upside at depth lies in sulfide mineralization of a polymetallic format of silver, lead, zinc, gold, and copper. Of which there are indications in the one historic drill hole from Santa Fe Mining from '89. But as far as Aztec's joint venture is concerned, we haven't yet had the opportunity to drill those deep targets. So shallow gold, silver oxide, at depth polymetallic silver, lead, zinc, gold, copper.
Okay, great. Shifting a bit, you had touched on Cervantes, but obviously there was an election there. What are your thoughts about the new president in Mexico? There's a bit of optimism here. Is this an improvement for the mining industry?
Yeah, we share the optimism that has been expressed in some of the commentary around the mining sector in Mexico. You obviously saw a bit of that in some of the share prices for the Mexico pure plays. So for us, we're very fortunate to have transnational diversification, U.S. and Mexico. But we were pleased to see the omission of the so-called open pit ban on new concessions in a recent letter in Mexico. So we're cautiously optimistic that probably the worst of the sentiment is behind us. I don't want to make any predictions on what the final legislation is over the next few years, but I just having been working there for several years and marketing the company, I've experienced a bit more of a positive outlook on the country, and so that's been good. And I think that I just want to maybe clarify for us. Sentiment's a big thing, but we're an early stage of exploration. I mean, we've drilled only 12,000 meters, and they've been very successful, but we're still so wide open to expand it that I think when it comes to Cervantes potentially being permitted as an open pit, it would be a factor perhaps a little bit later in the new president's tenure, or if not in the next regime. So we think the best way that our shareholders will make money is on drilling and discovery, and we have to be cognizant of the political factors in the country. But in our experience, we've had no issue with permitting any of our exploration activities whatsoever. And to that end, we are located in an area that has very little competing interest in terms of agriculture or local communities. So there really is no reason for local opposition to our project by virtue of its location.
Okay, great. One question that's always popular and important in the exploration business, but how much cash do you have, and how far will that last with your current plans?
Great question. I looked about 2.2 million yesterday, and that will fund our current drilling and our working capital well into next year if we don't expand the drilling. But there might be an opportunity to expand the drilling. So I don't want to get ahead of ourselves in terms of what our future plans are without even having any assays back. But we are in a good position for now with no need to raise additional capital in the near future without a compelling reason to do so.
Okay, great. And I believe that's all the questions we had come in, but maybe I'll just ask a little bit of a closing question, kind of reiterating here, but just review, what are some key catalysts or news items we might look forward to over the coming weeks?
Great question. Drill results And those are expected to start rolling in over the month of November. And given that we're drilling just hole 5 starting tomorrow, we should have results in November, December, and into January from this current drill program. So I believe we'll have lots of touch points to communicate to shareholders and investors.
Great. And hopefully great timing here as the market's really picked up for precious metals equities. And we're seeing juniors actually getting some love from the market. So it's great to see.
Agreed. Yeah, I'm very hopeful as well.
Right. Well, I'd like to thank Simon Dyakowski for presenting today, and thank you everyone on the line for tuning in. A reminder that Red Cloud Securities will be back Monday afternoon when our webinar series continues with GoviX Uranium presenting Monday, November 4th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Have a great rest of your day and happy investing.